what a great storytelling idea. The man who started the MCU, who now in 2027, we're going to have Doctor Doom basically end the MCU.
We have our Doom, finally. We've been wondering how long is it going to take for us to get our Doctor Doom in the MCU, a proper Doctor Doom, not those other ones that we've seen before. I wanted to talk to my friend Super Tim today and get his thoughts because he is an MCU expert. Tim, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Vactor?
A little under the weather, but I'm excited to talk about this news because it basically set the comic book world on fire over the weekend at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con 2024. This was the biggest announcement, the biggest news, and it kind of came out of nowhere. Although, it's funny, when I was looking up on YouTube just Doctor Doom videos, because I was trying to show my wife just what Doctor Doom looks like and how he behaves and things, there were these online videos talking about Robert Downey Jr. as Doom going back 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I was like,
That's crazy.
I don't remember those rumors, but apparently they were out there at some point. So
Yeah,
kudos to those guys.
Because 2 years ago, we were still in Kang Dynasty mode.
Yeah.
So,
So I wonder if they were just thinking about Secret Wars at that point, not he was going to be in 2 movies. He was just, but
right.
either way. So yes, so we know who it is. Tim, tell us, who is Dr. Doom?
It is none other than the greatest actor in the world, according to Joe and Anthony Russo. It is Robert Downey Jr., Oscar award-winning Robert Downey Jr. now, but everyone else knows him as Tony Stark and Iron Man, and basically the man who launched a universe about almost 20 years ago. And so, yeah, this is crazy. I mean, let's put you in the mind space. Where was Vactor when this was happening? It's Saturday night. The Marvel panel's kind of winding down. We've gotten our Fantastic Four news. We've gotten our Captain America news. Thunderbolts, which is all right. So, how are you feeling in this moment when this happened?
The first thing that I thought was, oh, this is a joke, because Robert Downey Jr., he's known to play pranks. He's a funny guy. He has that mentality. That's who Tony Stark is, and that's who he is. So you were the first one to send me the news, and I said, oh, okay, it's a prank. And then he's going to say, all right, the real Dr. Doom is Leonardo DiCaprio or whoever, and bring him out on stage. And then as it went on, I was like, oh, this is real. This is who is playing Dr. Doom. And I would say a whirlwind of emotion filled me. And it seems like that's what's happened to a lot of comic fans online, because I've noticed on a lot of the Facebook and the casual audience, let's say the people who, all right, I'll go see whatever's playing. I'm not looking forward 5 years from now or whatever. It's like, all right, whatever's playing at the cinema this week, I'll go and see it. Those people are like, hey, Robert Downey Jr., all right, yeah, he's back. The people who I have seen who are in an outrage, like, this is terrible, are the more hardcore people. And I had a little bit of that at first, because I just thought, well, the first thought was, yes, okay, Robert Downey Jr., I like him. He's back. I wanted to see him back as Tony, but I'll take him as any form I can get to get him in the MCU again. And then I thought about it and I said, does it mess up his legacy as Tony Stark? And I don't think it does. And then I thought,
I don't either.
He's taking away a role from someone else. So another actor could have joined the MCU. So I was like, that kind of, for a couple seconds, I was like, maybe it's not the right idea. But as I was turning and churning all these thoughts over the weekend, I ended up back to where I started. My first thought, yes, this is a good thing that we're getting Robert Downey Jr. back in this universe, because Dr. Doom is, I would say, the most important villain in the Marvel universe. And you can't mess him up, because they've done it already. These other companies, these other studios, Fox in particular, have done it already. So the MCU, they have to hit it out of the park. And from a marketing standpoint, from a filling seats standpoint, he's the guy. He's going to get people to go to
Mhm.
see the movies. And then from an acting standpoint, like you said, he just won an Oscar. He's one of the greatest actors of all time. Even before he won that Oscar, he was one of the greatest actors of all time. And his performance, I think, is he said it on stage. He's like, what can I say? I like playing complicated characters. So I think there is something there for him to choose that role and say, "Yeah, I'll sign on. This is not going to be a throwaway thing. I'm going to actually there's something meaty here. There's something to sink my teeth into as an actor." Um, so what were your thoughts as you heard this news?
My my first thought is, so the Marvel panel is winding down, and they announced the Russo brothers are coming back, which we'll talk about that because that's just in a whole other conversation. Excites me to no end. I'm like, great, yes, awesome. I'm all in. And they talk about Secret Wars, and then they reveal the title Avengers Doomsday. And I texted my wife, and she said, "Oh, is this going to be a Superman crossover now?" And I'm just like, but my first thought is, oh, they're doing Doctor Doom instead of Kang now, and so that was exciting to me. And and then when they revealed Robert Downey Jr., I was like, whoa, what a swing, and like what does this even mean for the MCU? Like what does it mean that we have a Robert Downey Jr. who's a Doctor Doom and a Robert Downey Jr. who's a Tony Stark? Like, what does that mean? And over the course of the weekend, as everyone who has seen, I've been posting shorts of the biggest news to come out of Comic-Con, and I was all set. Like as the Pilot panel was winding down, like we've got our Avengers movies. I was all ready to record something. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I just like how do I feel about this? Like what does this mean? Is it a Tony Stark variant? Was my first thought, and it's what a lot of people's thoughts were. And I had to watch the footage of the Russo brothers announcing Doctor Doom, and introducing Robert Downey Jr. to realize that they're calling him Victor Von Doom. Joe Russo says like this is the actor that's playing Victor Von Doom. So that's been my kind of mentality ever since, and I think that I don't think he's going to be a Tony Stark variant. I think with the multiverse saga, that's what we've been like. That's what everybody's jumping on because it's been such a part of the storytelling. With Loki and Spider-Man: No Way Home, and What If, like all these variants that we've seen, even in Deadpool and Wolverine, we've seen all these variants of characters. And but like the rules of the variants have been different. Some variants look like Tom Hiddleston is the same in every
Right.
universe. Ryan Reynolds is the same in every universe. Hugh Jackman is the same in every universe. But then you have Spider-Man, which Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield, they're not the same in every universe. So I do think this is a Victor Von Doom of a different universe, and that's why he looks like Robert Downey Jr. But I don't think it's a Tony Stark. But I'm excited. And like the more I've thought about it, I like there are some things that kind of disappoint me. Like for one, it because Doctor Doom is going to be in these Avengers movies and is going to be the antagonist of the Avengers movies. This means that you know, like yes, he'll tangle with the Fantastic Four in an Avengers setting, but it won't be like Reed Richards versus Doctor Doom that we would have liked as we go into the Fantastic Four. So that kind of disappoints me. But overall, I think this is great casting. Thematically, I'm all for it because there have been talks about how after the multiverse saga is over, there'll be a soft reboot. Where and when I started thinking about that, like, well, what a great storytelling idea to have the man who started the MCU, who like basically kicked it off with the first Iron Man in 2008, and now in 2027 we're gonna have Doctor Doom basically probably end the MCU like he did in
Right.
Secret Wars in the comics. Like that's just wonderful. That's just great. I mean, yeah, it's just wonderful.
Yeah, there's so many storytelling ideas there, and either way, whether he's Victor Von Doom or whether he's a Tony variant, and I've thought about it. There's precedence for it in the comics, and
Mhm.
I've got some shorts percolating in my brain. I'm thinking about how I'm going to do them. but they could go that route, and it makes sense. Either way, it makes sense. Like I said, like if you're doing the Victor Von Doom, he doesn't have to look. I mean, they don't have to look like different people. They could look like someone from our universe. That's how the
Sure.
multiverse works. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't bother me. I think that bothers a lot of people. But
Yeah.
the Tony Stark part of it, or actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, even if he's not Tony Stark, the fact that he has Tony Stark's face, that's going to be a major plot point for a lot of the characters, all the
I've
people
thought
who
about
know
that too.
Tony Stark,
Yeah.
and especially Peter Parker, especially Tom
Oh
Holland, who
yeah.
looked up to him as a mentor figure. How is he going to react? And there's so much drama that you can take out of that. So for me, I'm like, yeah, bring it on. That's what I want. I want great stories. I want great drama. We talked about it in our X-Men 97 reviews. That's something that it's like drama, action, comedy. If they can get all those things right, they have that winning formula
And Robert
for
Downey Jr. can do all those things. He could do
right.
the comedy. He can do the drama. He can do the action, as we've seen in Infinity War and Endgame and Civil War and all the movies he's been in as Iron Man. We know he can do the action. He's quippy. We know he can do the comedy. It'll probably be less as Doctor Doom.
Right. And
Um.
that's what I think a lot of the comic book fans who are upset are like, and even Ryan Airy on Screen Crush was like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, this is not my Doctor Doom," and he's a huge Doctor Doom fan. That's his favorite character, and I
Yeah.
can see where he's coming from because
Yeah.
yes, they are two separate characters. They are not supposed to be 100% alike. They
Uh-huh.
have similarities in their armor, and they've mined that in the comics about, oh, look, two guys in armor or two guys with egos, two super intelligent people, all those things. But at the end of the day, their personalities are completely different. So what does that mean for this? And if he's just playing Tony Stark and personality, yeah, then I could see people being upset, like, oh man,
Mhm.
why are you doing the exact same thing instead
And
of
I
giving
think
us
and I think that when because I'm sure there was a lot of talk between Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers and Robert Downey Jr. about this, because there was a lot of talks about him coming for Civil War and
right,
what he would be doing in that film. Because he was only signed on for 3 Iron Man movies and 3 Avengers movies, and like then having him sign on for not only a third Avengers movie, but a third Captain America movie that he wasn't signed on for, and also a fourth Avengers movie that he wasn't signed on for. So they had to make sure that his arc was, was satisfactory to the actor. And I think that because the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige and Robert Downey Jr. have talked ad nauseum since Endgame about the importance of that moment that we all love at the end of Endgame when Tony Stark sacrifices himself to defeat Thanos, and he snaps his fingers and says, "I am Iron Man." Like that moment means so much to not only the MCU but to that character. And I don't think Robert Downey Jr. would have come back if it was going to step on that moment. And I don't
right,
think the Russo brothers would want to backtrack that moment. And I don't think Kevin Feige wants to wants to backtrack that moment either, because he understands the story of how important that moment is. And that's why I'm fine with it, is because I 100% believe that they're not going to step on that. There is going to be that drama, especially between Peter Parker and Doctor Doom, both who are intelligent characters. And to see that, like, where he sees Doctor Doom, and probably his first reaction is going to say Mr. Stark, and I can hear in my mind, sitting in a movie theater, an audience going, "Oh," and that's going to be a wonderful experience. But when you're talking about like characters and villainous characters that are different from the comics to the films, I was thinking about this guy over here, Thanos. The Thanos that's in Infinity War and in Endgame is by far his motivations, his characterization different from the comics, because in the
right.
comics Thanos worships death and that's his motivation for doing everything to
My
appease death.
my
And
wife was
but
actually upset about that because I had given her the Infinity Gauntlet comic before the movie,
uh-huh.
and there's the end credits scene of Avengers 1, where they're like to
Right.
court them is to court death. So I was telling my wife like, yeah, he's gonna be obsessed with death, and my wife loves relationship drama. She loves all of that stuff.
Sure.
So when his motivation was not that, she was like, "What?" So there,
Hmm.
I think that's a great point. Thanos, as they pulled it off, everyone loves Thanos in the MCU version,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
don't see a whole lot of people complaining about, well, he's not exactly like the comics. Um, and it's like, well, if
No.
you want exactly, then go read the comics. That's another thing of
Yeah. Yeah. The Infinity
adaptations
Gauntlet's a
and
great book. It's a great book. And I highly recommend anybody read it. But but when you're trying to make a movie and you don't have time to put all these little intricacies of, because then you like not only do you have to explain that relationship, you have to explain what death as a personification means and all that
right,
stuff.
right, because they
Um,
had never set that up in the movies at all.
no, no, and I thought they were going to at some point, but they never did.
Yeah,
And I am a little upset about that not being included. But his motivations totally made sense to an audience, and I think that they're going to do the same thing with Doctor Doom.
right,
Is his motivations will make sense, and we'll be able, and like Thanos, because nobody remembered Thanos from those post credit scenes by the time Infinity War rolled around.
right.
Like because like my family members, they're not comic book readers, and they're just like, who's Thanos, who's Thanos, who's Thanos, like he's been in the credits, like haven't you been watching?
Right. I
And
had
but then by
somebody
the
I had somebody ask me, "Who is was that Hellboy?" And I was like, no, that was a different
no.
company." So yeah, at that point, mainstream audiences did not know who Thanos was. Now, because of the impact of the MCU, how many people go and watch these movies, a lot of people know who Thanos is, and I think this is gonna do the same for Doctor Doom,
I do too.
where he's already a household name for us, but
Right.
again, like I was saying, I had to show my wife, like, "Hey, this is Doctor Doom. This is who he is, his motivations and things." And so, and also, I noticed my Doctor Doom short that I made in January. It's now July as we record this. That Doctor Doom short is now my all-time most viewed short on TikTok. So just overnight, people, who is Doctor Doom? Who is Doctor Doom? So people want to know more information about this
just from
character.
just from that just from that 1 minute that we saw of Doctor Doom at Comic-Con. That 1 minute. Just imagine what a 2.5 hour movies are gonna do. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe a 2.5 hour movie and a 3 hour movie for Secret Wars. Who knows?
And I'm
Um
also very confident in the writer, McFeely, being
mm-hmm.
the same. I think we're in good hands. I don't think we're going to have a Deadpool and Wolverine of 5 writers and the stories all over the place. I think both of these
Wait,
movies are going to
when you
have.
said that, it's like it had 5 writers. I'm like, but yeah, and here's my history with this particular these two movies particular, because I love like the Russo brother movies of Marvel: Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. They're my top four. Where in my top four they place often changes depending on my mood. Uh, like sometimes Infinity War's on top, sometimes Endgame's on top, sometimes Civil War's on top, sometimes. Um, but as soon as I heard that they were in talks, I'm like, I hope that's true. I hope that's true because like I was interested in what Destin Daniel Cretton was gonna do because I liked Shang-Chi. That was a good movie. I
Mhm.
like it. Um, I was impressed with what he did. I was interested in what he would do with an Avengers movie. Because and the writer that was attached, like Michael Waldron, did Multiverse of Madness. I'm like, okay, everybody writes a bad movie, that's fine. We can forgive that. He did Loki season 1, so it's not all bad. And so but then when I heard the Russo brothers were attached, I'm like, oh, I hope that's true. And then they confirmed it. I'm like, yes. My confidence for these movies shot dramatically because I knew like whatever we get, like even if it's like somewhat lackluster, the movie will still be good. The camera work will still be good. Everything, the writing will still be good. Especially when we got Stephen McFeely writing it, who co-wrote all of their movies together. It was very much a shorthand between the directors and the writers. You could tell,
Yeah.
and he cameoed in Infinity War. So yeah, that's exciting. I mean, I'm just 100% confident that the Russo brothers are going to pull this off because they made the two biggest movies of all time, and like not just in terms of Marvel movies, actual movies.
Right.
The box office but for Endgame like was huge. Like it's like unprecedented. You can't replicate. Like I'm sure they're gonna try. Like you can't replicate. You can't just like that's just a lightning. But if anyone can do lightning in a bottle again, it's gonna be the Russo brothers because
Yeah.
they're just gonna. It's gonna be a good set of movies. It's gonna be a good time in the theater.
Yeah. They're up there on my list of favorite directors. Although I have to put an asterisk next to their name because what they did was phenomenal to have those two movies be the highest grossing. But they had help from the first three phases of the MCU.
Sure.
James Cameron did that with Avatar 1. Oh, first of all, Titanic, then Avatar 1, and then Avatar 2. Like the fact that he was able, to me, he stands as like the greatest director. I don't know, like people's director. Like
Yeah.
no one else can connect to an audience like James Cameron, and
It's
it's
weird. It's crazy.
phenomenal that
Yeah.
he was able to
Yeah.
do that. So I love the Russo brothers, but I just got to put him a little bit down there. But if they come in again with Secret Wars and Doomsday, maybe they get up there with James. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. And there's the thing that excites me is Robert Downey Jr. portraying this new character and what his motivations are, what his goals are, and then the version that they tell is going to be very important because we at this point, we're 2 years away. We're all speculating about variant Tonys and and Dooms from other multiverses and all these things, but we don't know. None of us know the exact thing. Now, we can throw darts at the board and maybe we get one right at some point, but I just want to see what happens. I want to see what they present to us. So
Yeah.
I think you and I are taking the same type of approach where, hey, you got my attention. Now let me see what you make, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
not going to judge this before I see something on the screen. Until I
Right.
see something on the screen, hey, they've done things I've liked in the past, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt this time. Now, this is same situation I've been in before where someone has done something that I liked in the past and they didn't do necessarily something I liked in the present. But I think at
What's an
all of
example of
these,
that?
well, Multiverse of Madness was Sam Raimi. And when they announced Sam Raimi, I was like, oh, he's going to be Spider-Man 1 and 2 Sam Raimi, not Spider-Man 3 Sam Raimi. So I was really expecting, and I liked the first Doctor Strange movie. So I was expecting that to be a real, knock it out of the park. And it was okay. I didn't hate that movie, but I felt like Sam Raimi is a different director now 20 years later than he was in the 2000s with Spider-Man or like Evil Dead, like a lot of the indie stuff that he did with the Russo brothers. I don't think it has been that long
It's only been a
since.
couple years. Yeah.
So I think they're still in their prime. And Robert Downey Jr., we just saw him win an Oscar, so it's not like, oh, he can't act anymore. So I want to see what they can combine and tell us. What story can they tell us? And I'm really hoping that these next couple things, specifically, I think you and I are on the same page about this. Fantastic Four, and then these two Avengers movies. If these can bring the MCU back up, I'm really going to be happy
Right.
because
And I think they can do it. Yeah.
they
Because
just
not only was the presentation with the Avengers movies astounding, but the presentation of the Fantastic Four and like all the footage that they showed and showing the Fantastic Car. I still don't know how they did that.
yeah,
I've watched that video of the Fantastic Car moving around Hall H. I'm like, I don't see any wires. I mean, drones is the only thing I could think of is how they did that. But
yes,
it's just astounding. Um, and it's good you mentioned Fantastic Four. I do think that the Fantastic Four. I mean, but because we've just had Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's been breaking records left and right. That's bringing the X-Men back and things. And but then we're gonna have Fantastic Four next year, and that's gonna bring the Fantastic Four back, which I'm really excited about. But here's a question: do you think that we will see Doctor Doom in some form like Robert Downey Jr. in the Fantastic Four movie.
I think 100% because you have after credit scenes. I don't know if he's going to be in the official movie, like any part of the plot, because I
I
think
don't
that
think
might
so
be
about that.
too overstuffed. But to not have him be in an end credit sequence, like that would be a huge mistake to me. I think they've already announced it. You know, we know he's going to be playing Doom, and you and I know that Doom and Fantastic Four, you can't separate those two. So you have to, it's like Spider-Man and Green Goblin, like you have to have those X-Men and Magneto. So I think that is definitely going to be something that we see at the end of the credits. But if we do get a mention of him, or if we see something in the background, I wouldn't be mad in Fantastic Four.
I wouldn't be either. And here's the thing: is like there's precedent for this. Is setting up the big Avengers movies in the end credits, because like with Infinity War and Endgame, we had a post credit scene that sets up Infinity War and Thor Ragnarok, and it's different. And here's the thing: is the costumes of Thor and Loki for that post credit scene where Thanos' ship shows up is different from their costumes from the rest of the movie. The way that the post-credit scene of Captain Marvel, where Captain Marvel shows up at Avengers compound, that's different from the rest of that movie. It looks different. So there is precedent for this. And the fact that Matt Shakman has come out and said that he's known about the Doctor Doom casting for a while, and is being coy as to whether he's in the movie or not, that's code.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he's definitely going to be in the movie, and like in at least the post-credit scene, to set up, and it'll be the Fantastic Four will return in Avengers Doomsday.
Yes, 100%.
And so I'm excited for that. I'm just excited for these movies. And I was a little, I'll be honest, I was a little worried about these Avengers movies, just because with all the drama that's been going on with them, as of late, with the shift in writers and shift in directors, Destin Daniel Craig dropping out, and we haven't had a director. Sean Levy was supposed to direct one of them at some point, and who knows how that would have been. But the fact that the Russo brothers are back directing these movies, I mean, like I said, it's going to be a good movie, no matter what. Like it's going to be an enjoyable time in the theater. Like all those moments, Schaff mentioned in your Deadpool Wolverine review that like Captain America wielding Mjolnir, the Russo brothers pulled that off. Like, yeah, there was setup for it, but they pulled it off and were able to deliver that moment, and deliver on the Avengers Assemble moment, and deliver on all these moments. And I think there's going to be a lot of those moments here, because we're going to be having every character in these movies. And we know from Secret Invasion that the Avengers are not a thing. And that's not a first in the MCU, because after Civil War, the Avengers were kind of not a thing. And so I think the Russos just thrive on, the Avengers aren't together. We'll change that.
Man, I'm like you. I can't wait. I want to know if you, the listener, the reader, the watcher, are interested in all of these things, the Robert Downey Jr. of it all, the Russo brothers, the McFeelys, the Fantastic Fours, all the stuff that was announced at Comic-Con over the weekend. What are your thoughts? Share it in the comments down below. We might make a video based on something that you say. So let us know. We're always curious to hear your thoughts. And then we will be covering all of these movies as they come out. So stay tuned here to This Comic Cooks.